Greetings, fam. It's your brother Usman. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I jump right into it. Last week, I introduced my supplement, Tonic, and I started to explain the benefits of this formula. This week, I'll further the conversation and back up my assertions with more proof of the effectiveness of the herbs I'm using. Now, some people might ask, why get so in depth about herbs, some of which are common. Why go into such detail as to how they work? Well, for one, not everyone is the same. Some of us like to know the science behind some of the things that we partake in, be it herbs, food, media, philosophy, etc. Plus, and here's one thing that people don't consider. If you're 100% sure of the effectiveness of a product, that erases all doubt in your mind about its effectiveness. Those of you who understand the spiritual aspect of things know that the mind can negate the effectiveness of anything if doubt starts to, pervade the consciousness. And something that may not have normally had an effect on the body will have an effect if the mind believes it so. This is the very purpose for what's called the placebo effect in medicinal study. The power of the mind is so much of a factor, scientists routinely see people's beliefs affecting the very results of the studies. So we can't dismiss this aspect when evaluating results and treatments. Now, if you see the science and make the connections with how it operates in the body, that all the more increases your chances of benefiting at the maximum level with anything you self-prescribe. All right? But anyway, let me not go off the deep end. I want to dabble a little bit more into oregano before I get into other compounds in this formula. I touched on it somewhat, but I want to show you one thing that the general public is really not aware of by and large. Okay, a team of researchers in Greece released the results of their antiviral oregano supplementation, and they released these results into the U.S. National Library of Medicine in 2003. They did a follow-up study later in 2007, which confirmed the 2003 study. Now, it says that they injected the chickens with the bacteria E. tenella. E. tenella is a species of Emeria, which is a species of parasite that infects cats, dogs, cattle, chickens, turkeys, and a few other species of animals. Okay? So we'll read it here. So here is Emeria tenella, which is what they injected the chicks with, and it is a species of Emeria that causes hemorrhagic cystococcidosis in young poultry. It is found worldwide. Okay. Emeria is a genus of epicomplexian parasites that includes various species capable of causing the disease coccidiosis in animals such as cattle, poultry, dogs, especially puppies, cats, especially kittens, and smaller ruminants, including sheep and goats. So now we go here and see how this parasite infects the host. The motile sporocytes, which is the post-fertilized spores, they invade the enterocytes. Okay, the enterocytes are the absorptive cells of the intestines. So these are cells basically. Okay, so the spores go inside the cells of the small intestine and migrate to their respective sites of development. So they develop inside the cells. Invasion is mediated through specialized membrane-bound structures on the surface of the parasites that release secretions. All right. So now let's see what a virus is. A virus is a submicroscopic infectious agent that replicates only inside the living cells of an organism. Okay? So this bacteria operates the same way a virus does. And one could argue that the definition says only inside the cell, but that doesn't negate the mode of effect at the cellular level. So they're virtually the same. If you ask me, they're the same. It's just that the medical establishment, they have an interest in keeping people confused. but that's another story. Now, the researchers infected the chicks with this virus to do their testing, and subsequently they found in 2013 a thorough report on the topic was published in the livestock journal Progressive Dairyman, finding that oregano had been proven to be an effective biological agent against infection. An effective biological agent against infection. The report noted tests on oregano essential oil had inhibited 19 of 25 investigated bacterial strains. It showed good efficacy against 4 strains and only had to admit defeat in 2 cases. Thus, oregano is considered to be a natural broad-spectrum bacteria killer. There it is, fam. That's the antiviral power of oregano. Okay, I just gave you the direct link between an antiviral study and its effectiveness in its usage in the feed industry. Now, again, you'll hear bacteria, and then you'll also hear that bacteria is what most antiviral or herbs with antiviral properties are effective against, leading you to not really understand the direct antiviral link in its effectiveness, or the direct antiviral protections. But again, we have to know that a lot of these bacteria that they're speaking of act and replicate just the way viruses do. Okay. We talked about cayenne last week, but I want to reiterate the power of this herb, and I've been using it for years now. Okay. I believe this herb is responsible for me being lean, being able to stay lean, being able to absorb certain nutrients. As we get older, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult for us to absorb certain nutrients, and we don't get the full effect from the foods we eat, even if we eat pretty good. Even if we eat good, try to eat organic, try to eat lots of fibrous vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, etc. Okay. We know cayenne opens up the blood vessels, so there's a quicker delivery of whatever other nutrient or soluble ingestible that's inside the blood already. Okay, this speaks for itself, and this is why this is a good addition to basically any formula, and I have it in another formula as well, but in very minimal amounts, because again, we know it's a vasodilator. We want that effect. Sometimes even exercise, just prior to taking a specific herb supplement. That's why they recommend that you take protein supplements post-workout, not pre-workout, post-workout, afterwards, because your body's open to heat. Much of your body is vasodilated once you're in that post-exercise state. Okay. Tonic also has burdock in it. Okay, we're going to get into the burdock now. And this is another powerful herb. This is another monster. Now, last week I talked about synergy. We spoke on the anti-inflammatory powers of the combination of echinacea and the constituents in oregano, specifically the constituents that made up oregano and their synergy. But oregano also has a synergy with echinacea. We explained that last week. Burdock's addition to this formula is a special addition because it's been shown to attack and neutralize the IL-6 interleukin protein, which is not only inflammatory, but it's one of the most common inflammatory proteins that's more prone to being dysregulated than other inflammatory proteins, because this is found in many of the inflammatory diseases. This protein is found in arthritis, chronic inflammation, autoimmune disease such as lupus, celiac disease, dermatitis, a host of other diseases. Okay. The main effect that I want to focus on right now with burdock is it is ROS neutralizing. Now, ROS is short for reactive oxygen species. Now, I don't know how to explain this without being a geek, so I'll do the best that I can. All right. The normal process the body does with oxygen in the blood is to reduce it into water. Okay. So you have oxygen on this side, water on this side, and the oxygen is reduced to water. Okay. But in between that process of reducing, that product is neither water nor is it oxygen. Okay, it's called an oxygen species. When this partially reduced oxygen molecule gets overproduced, the congregation of these species are called radicals. Okay, and then at that point they start to tear the body down. Okay, and do damage. Now, some of these species are created by and used by the body to destroy germs, okay, and bacteria, and also to signal certain biological communications in the body. So they're not all bad, okay, quote unquote. Some are also used by the body to produce nitric oxide, which is needed for strong erections, right? We talked about that in previous videos. So again, the body uses these atoms to create other actions in the body. Now, it's a delicate process, and if the body is weakened in any way, the oxygen species get out of control. The structure of these atoms are such that they're missing paired electrons. Okay, so one thing they do to destroy cellular reproduction is they snatch the electrons from the other cells of your body. Okay, now this is the same way that they destroy bacteria, viruses, and other foreign molecules. They do that the same way because they snatch they destroy the atomic structure by snatching electrons from these pathogens. Okay, and that is why the body has this process where it utilizes these species, this byproduct of the reduction of oxygen from oxygen to water, that middle ground. It takes those and uses those for specific purposes. Okay, but once they do their job in destroying pathogens and other things, they need to be brought into a balance so that they don't start to attack the body, right? Autoimmune. Burdock is key in doing this. That's why it's so powerful. Now, besides the IL-6 protein being generated as a result of oxygen gone bad, let me tell you what else causes ROS, okay? Reactive oxygen species. Exercise, viruses, candida, stress. This is how stress can cause the body's regulation of ROS to be so imbalanced. It starts to physically destroy you. And some people believe that you can even die from stress. Okay, it's accumulated, but you know the story. But we all know stress is very, very dangerous. Exercise. We all know, if anybody's into exercise into any degree, we know that exercise produces these reactive oxygen, these free radicals, basically. Okay, exercise is a big contributor to this, and this is why I involve a lot of burdock, not as much into the formula, but into my particular regimen. Not only do I use it in the formula, I use it in teas, because you can easily cut back on the tea. Burdock is not to be used consistently; it's to be cycled. Okay, I explained that in the formula, but this is why a lot of bodybuilders have to do so much body maintenance, extracurricular, such as chiropractor, massages, bariatric chamber therapy, water therapy, oxygen therapy. So much, because once you get to a certain stage of bodybuilding or tearing the body down, again, those ROS species start to become, they work in overdrive. They go in overdrive, and then you have to fight not only the stress that you're putting through your body through, but you have to fight the resulting radicals. Okay. So again, we talk about the ROS being basically atoms with unpaired electrons. Okay, electricity. We're talking about an electrical circuit in the atomic structure of these cells, or of these oxygen molecules. Okay, now this is the basis behind. I don't want to say the basis, but this is a reasoning behind Dr. Sebi's pushing electric foods, because electric food supplies plenty of electrons to normalize and reduce ROS, which stems from cells losing their electrons and causing a plethora of illnesses in the body. All right. Now, in addition to this, burdock actively destroys toxins in the blood. And we'll cover that next week as we move into other constituents of this formula. Okay, but I don't want to get too geeky. Sometimes it's just, it's a lot. So I'm going to leave it there. We will continue to cover formula, the constituents in this formula. Also, the cosmic moss will be out before Friday of next week. So look for that. All right. Thanks for tuning in, family. Thanks for the support thus far. I really appreciate it, fam. Okay. And you will benefit from this formula. Okay. I'm waiting for the feedback. All right. 1. If you learned from this video, help support the study and time to bring this knowledge to our community. It does take time and effort to be concise and as accurate as possible so that we can stay abreast of important health information and techniques. Please visit the site and follow these links.